for people who have never read the book Fusion, you've already mentioned it's to do with that internal alignment and getting that right. But how else would you define what fusion is?
Yeah, yeah, okay. So you did a great job of introducing the concept that fusion is really the integration and alignment of your external brand identity and your internal organizational culture. So your external brand identity, meaning, what you want to stand for your customers, how you're perceived, the kind of experience, the values that drive the kind of experience that you want to create for your customers. And then your internal culture is just all about what are the values that drive your operations and your strategy, your decision making. And whether you are a large company or whether you are a solopreneur like I am, your internal values need to be aligned with how you show up externally, right? Otherwise, what's the point of having these values? And so while most of my work has been with larger companies where there is a lot of distance and a lot of noise in between what goes on within a company and what customers see on the outside. Even for people who run small businesses, or like I said, people who are entrepreneurs themselves, you always want to be thinking about what are the values? What is the purpose of my company? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And then have that drive what you actually do for your customers rather than starting, I think, from the outside in and saying, this is the image that we want to portray. And maybe not necessarily really being that on the inside. I think that a lot of people tend to think more about what they want to stand for on the outside. Well, that's great, but you need to then do the hard work of making sure that you actually are on the inside, what you say you're on the outside.
That makes sense. And I can really see, Denise, for a larger company or with somebody for a lot of employees, the benefit of doing that. What is your view for solopreneurs in terms of that fusion part? Because do they need to define what their culture is going to be if they're working by themselves? Is what I'm getting at, really.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so culture, I think, is a weird concept if you're only thinking about yourself. But I do think that like integrity and authenticity is really important because you are your product. I mean, I'm a speaker, I was a consultant. I understand that people are buying you. And so and they will quickly find out if the image that you portray is not really the value that you deliver, or the identity that you claim is not really what you do for them. And so I think that as an individual, it's really important to think about what are my values and be very explicit about them, write them down. And in Fusion, I talk about how to develop or how to discern your values and how to make them unique and differentiated from others. And so I don't mean to make this sound like a book plug, but I also don't want to spend a lot of time talking about that here. So I would just say, make sure that you're developing your values and you're writing them down, and then you are operationalizing them in terms of translating them into specific actions and behaviors, the way that you show up to a meeting, the types of services that you provide or that you don't provide, the even small things like the terms of payment, or the paperwork that you sometimes have to deal with. All of that needs to be an expression of your purpose and your values. And the last thing I would say, just on this specific topic, is that as an entrepreneur, sometimes we can get really caught up in everything that we can do. There's so many opportunities and so many ideas, and that's great. I mean, that's part of why people like us can be very successful, is because we're very creative and driven and want to pursue all these things. But I think it's just as important to make sure that you put like kind of clear boundaries on what you will do and what you won't do, not only from like an ethics and integrity standpoint, but also from just kind of a scope of work. What is the kind of work that you are best suited to do? In my first book, What Great Brands Do, I talk about what are you made to do? How are you designed so that the things that you do are uniquely and just of a quality that only you could provide, and do those things and be willing to let all these other great ideas and great opportunities that come your way that aren't a fit, be willing to let those go. Because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, you'll end up trying to do everything trying to be everything to everyone and end up being nothing to no one, really.